Nick C. What sort of relationships tend to form between twins in the RPF? Or is it all individual and it doesn't make sense to generalize? All right, so RPF, Rehabilitation Project Force. I've talked about this at length. I'm not going to explain it all again. I will just say that in terms of the twinships, when you work with, you are assigned somebody else to work with. Your job is to make them better. Their job is to make you better. That's the motto of the RPF is, or one of the mantras of the RPF is, it's not did you get better, it's did you make somebody else better. Okay, so, and if you fit that in with everything else I've said about the RPF, you get that it's just more craziness. The relationship between twins is not generally, it's often contentious. It's often strained. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's very friendly, but not really, because the thing is, you're acting as that person's confessor, and they're the ones they're the confessee. They're the one telling you all their sins, and you are not. You're sitting there neutrally listening to all this, but then after the auditing session, you have to write all this up. Everything they tell you is written down in reports, and it's seen by other people. And the twin, your twin, has to now make you do things to take responsibility for and make amends for the things that you've confessed. And so sometimes they can end up being kind of harsh, because you're sitting there going, well, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And they're like, oh no, you got to do this and this and this, and you got to read this from Hubbard, and you got to study this, and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes you'll get into these arguments with your twin over stuff, and it can get a little heated sometimes. And then, but you're always on pins and needles in the RPF, because you don't want to buck the system too much. You don't want to fight back too hard, or basically show too much individuality or independent thought. Because if you do, then the system the whole group starts coming in, because your twin can go tell the Master at Arms, which is the ethics officer, for help, and then the ethics officer's involved, and now you've got this authoritarian structure going into play to force you to realize the extent of your badness and the error of your ways. And you have to kowtow and bow and scrape, and yes, I'm very sorry, and of course I was wrong for ever having any independent thought about that. So it's contentious that way. Also, nobody wants to be there. I mean, you're on the RPF, kind of by choice, but just barely. I mean, you really don't want to be there, but you're forced to be there because the circumstances of your life are such that you have no choice. Or almost no choice, unless you just want to step entirely out of Scientology. Then you can walk away easily. But when you're in that mindset, that's not the place you're at. You're not. You guys out there look in on the world of Scientology or the Sea Org, and you think, well, that's crazy. I would never do that. And you're right. That's why you're not doing it. But for us who were in it, we believed. We were totally committed to this. So, as bad as it could get, and it got really bad, we still thought that was better than leaving and being in the outside world, which was, basically being exiled to hell, as far as we thought. That was our frame of mind. So as hellish as the RPF is, we thought outside was worse. So we kept going in it. Those of us who got through the program. Most people realize, oh, the outside world's not so bad, and they leave. They start the brainwashing, so to speak, starts breaking down. Didn't for those of us who got through the bloody thing. It took me longer, but I'm a slow learner. Okay, so as far as the twin relationship goes, that's where the contentiousness kind of comes from. Also, they know everything about you. You know everything about them. I mean, that's the relationship that develops, is you learn everything about this person, way more than you ever wanted to know about anybody. I mean, you know everything. You know about their family. You know about their upbringing. You know about their childhood. You know about their teenage years. You know about how they got into Scientology. All of this stuff comes out in the course of doing the confessions, of doing the sect checking. And you learn very, very intimate details about them. And sometimes those details are not very savory and they don't make the person very likable. So, you know, that's a kind of an issue too. So I guess there's a lot of things going on in that relationship. It's complex. I had a twin that I was getting along with, and then he, you know, had some things happen, and then he wanted to leave, and he ended up leaving the Sea Org. I then got twinned up with a woman from South Africa who I really didn't get along with very well. She was temperamental, and she did not have a lot of patience, and she had very firm convictions about how I should be, and I wasn't that way, and so I had to kind of keep fitting into that way, and it was just kind of difficult. You know, it was a difficult, rocky relationship for me and my twin. I did observe other twinships not having that same level of difficulty, and I did see some twinships where sexual attraction became an issue between men and women. Twinships, I never saw a homosexual relationship develop on the RPF ever. I mean, it's already verboten in Scientology. It's already heavily verboten in the Sea Org, and then on the RPF, it would be it would just be unthinkable. So, but I did see people. I did hear about. I talked with Nora on my podcast about how people would go off and, you know, have sex and this kind of stuff. So that was rare, very, very rare, but it did happen. So that was also something that would, you know, sometimes develop, but that always ended badly, always. You know, it's not like you find your mate on the RPF. That's very rare. I saw one couple. They were not twinned when they were on the RPF, but they both independently finished the RPF at different times and then got together outside the RPF, and that happened again very infrequently, but it did happen from time to time. But that wasn't between twins. I never saw that happen between a twinship. So that's what I can say about that.